Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Alex Paul from InvestorStream, and I'll be your host today. Presenting for us this morning is Metalbank Limited Executive Chair Innes Scotland to provide an update on the successful application for the Wadi Al Juna copper, zinc and gold project in the licensing round 6 auctions in Saudi Arabia. You can access the presentation from the ASX, and a copy of the webinar will also be available on Metalbank's website and social media platforms later today. You can also send through questions by sending them through via the Q&A platform, a pane on the Zoom platform. But for now, I'd like to throw it over to Innes to kick things off for us. Innes, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alex, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. And I hope this is an informative session. And as Alex has mentioned, I'm happy to answer any questions, so please feel free to use the Q&A. Actually, this opening slide is a good introduction to why Saudi Arabia and why we think that the copper and gold opportunities in Saudi Arabia are so exciting. And this is actually a current slide, a current picture from Google Earth. Which is the Jabal Sayid mine, which we explored, discovered and developed from about 2006 until the takeover of Citadel Resources in 2011. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be back in Saudi, but it's also great to see the excellent housekeeping on the mine site. And I've got it scheduled for my next visit in Saudi actually to pay a visit there. I've been invited by Martin to go and visit, so that'll be a fantastic opportunity. So we'll move on through the slide pack. Obviously, I will be making some forward-looking statements, which Alex has just very kindly briefly flicked through for me. As far as a corporate overview goes, we are currently in the middle of a rights issue. I'm hoping today that we're trading over the rights issue price, which was 1.6 cents. And I think as of yesterday, we were 1.8 and have been trading above that, particularly since we made the announcement about Saudi. So this is basically how we will look from the completion of the rights issue. So our MENA strategy, and I don't know if you've been following us over the last year, but we have been talking a bit about our Middle East, North Africa strategy, which is really just the Middle East. We're not doing anything in North Africa, but the region is referred to as MENA. It's really focused around both Jordan and Saudi Arabia. So about a year ago, we secured our first license in Jordan in an area called the Malacca area, which is a historic copper mining area. And we have since applied for 2 additional areas, which very creatively we have just called Area 47 and Area 65, which is just the roads that are closest to the projects. We have been waiting to drill those projects until we've had all 3 granted. And I'll talk a bit more about that. And in addition, of course, we started applying for the licensing rounds in Saudi, which take a few months to come through on this licensing round 6, which we have just been granted. So I'll talk a bit about these separate areas over the next few slides. Thanks, Alex. We have talked a lot about our MENA strategy to people, but we're not quite unknown for our projects here in Australia. And it was really only recently when we were talking with Taylor Collison about doing this rights issue that it was brought up that, oh, yes, you do have a gold project in Australia. So the Livingstone Gold Project, which is in the Meekatharra Gold area, has got a JORC resource on it. We have 2 different areas within the Livingstone project which share a 70,000 ounce JORC resource. There's a lot of work to be done there. A lot of the resource is on the shallow oxide materials, and there are many targets that we have as part of our work program. And in addition, we have the Millennium Copper Cobalt Project, which is in the Mount Isa Konkari region, where we're surrounded by other copper projects and a lot of central processing facilities as well. And our Millennium project, most importantly, has 5 granted mining licenses on that, and a JORC resource, which we are looking at growing once we get through a few corporate issues about a little gap zone that we have. So next slide, please, Alex. I guess the investment proposition is always, when is a good time to invest? Of course, being the executive chairman, I would say, always is a good time to invest. But particularly now, we have a really busy year planned for 2025. I can honestly say that we're a little bit disappointed with our 2024 work program, mostly because we had been planning to drill in Jordan, and we haven't been able to do that for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is the locality. And also we've been working on, getting through our Saudi company established, our joint ventures, and then looking at how we're going to add value to our Australian projects. So I think although we didn't get some of the work done we wanted to in 2024, it's really put us in a good position now to be able to execute quite quickly our work program for 2025. And I won't walk through the complete slide, but as to say, we've got a few things that we want to finish this year. And excitingly, I think we're waiting on what we're expecting to be quite high-grade graphite results coming back from some sampling on an assay project that we've done at the Millennium Copper Cobalt project. We've also kicked off a few weeks ago a strategic review of the Livingston Gold project. And we're looking at how we can quickly unlock some value there, either through growing our JORC resources early in 2025 and through some high priority exploration. And obviously we will be hitting the ground running in Saudi Arabia over the whole course of 2025 and hopefully getting back into Jordan and being able to conduct some other critical exploration there. So Saudi, why Saudi? I guess those of you who know us from the past will know that we are very experienced in Saudi. As I mentioned before, we were the people that brought the Jabal Sayid project through to definitive feasibility study, and we did that from an exploration project through to there in a 5-year period. So we know that you can get things done in Saudi, and we know that you can get them done quite quickly. We have established our local JV company, which has got about $2 million in the bank. And we did that with Sheikh Khalid Al Qahtani, who was our joint venture partner in Citadel on the Jabal Sayid project. He's also a very large shareholder of Metalbank. So he's been very supportive, and we know we work well with him. In addition, the government is providing quite significant exploration incentives in Saudi Arabia, where they're giving money back for exploration expenditure. And they're very keen to see junior mining companies in there actually getting some work done and getting it quickly. And this is all to help support their 2030 strategy of growing the mining industry. If you can move to the next slide. So the new mining code was established in 2021. Look, the old mining code was already pretty friendly, but it's definitely caused a lot of interest in the company. And I was actually at Robert Friedland's lunch the other day and talking to him because he'd just come back from Saudi, and we'd met some people together at different times, but over the course of the last few weeks. So there's a lot of people that have been spending time there and are starting to look at ramping up exploration activities. And Saudi Arabia is well resourced to be able to support those activities, which is one of the issues that we have had in Jordan. In Saudi, there are quite a few drilling companies. There's a large laboratory which is fully certified. And of course, there are operating both base and precious metal mines in Saudi. There's 2 reasonably large mining companies. Of course, there's Ma'aden, which is one of the fastest growing mining companies in the world. They are operating in joint venture with Barrick Gold, the Jabal Sayid mine. Amazingly, at the moment, the Jabal Sayid mine has got a head grade of about 2.67% copper. I think when we had done the last resource on it, I think it was at about 2.3%. So that's pretty exciting. And they also have 4 operating gold mines. There's also another company called Al Masani Al Kobra, AMAC, who are operating in southern Saudi Arabia. And the new CEO there is actually an Australian, a guy by the name of Jeff Day. So there's quite a lot of mining activity and exploration activity in Saudi. Marden say that this year they're going to be spending about US $65 million in exploration. I'm not sure how you actually spend that much money. They must have a pretty sophisticated exploration program to be able to get through that. But obviously that is a lot of drilling and that is a lot of project development work. And so, as I said, the country is well resourced to be able to support companies quickly through getting projects into sort of drill-ready phase, and from drill-ready phase through to the early development and then, of course, construction phases. So Wadi Al Juna in size is about 400 square kilometres, I think 423. All of the Arabian Shield is very underexplored. The Arabian Shield is a vast area. It's the Arabian-Nubian Shield. So on the other side into Africa is the Nubian Shield. Most of the exploration done to date is at probably 100 metres or less in drilling. So in terms of any sort of deeper drilling below 300 metres, there's been very little done. And I mean, that's been a result of the fact that a lot of the projects in Saudi which are currently being mined are VMS-style projects, and they outcrop and, you can easily see them. So there hasn't been a lot of need to do deep drilling, but also the fact that there just haven't been a lot of people working there. When we were in Saudi in 2006, essentially we were the only people along with Marden who were there. So now I think that we are getting a lot more people entering the country. There'll be a lot more geological information available. And although people say, that's a bit of competition, I'm not concerned about the competition. We have a fantastic reputation in Saudi. I think it's more exciting that we get more geological information and just a more robust and vibrant mining industry. So here's a little bit about the project, 427 square kilometres. It sits in a very interesting terrain. The area that has been most explored and is where Marden is working mostly is around the Jabal Sayid project itself, which is about centre. It's about a 6-hour drive from Jeddah. So this is further south than that. So it's a very underexplored area. There was some work done in the 1960s and 70s. Most of the work done in Saudi during that time is done by either Rio Phoenix, the BRGM, which are the French Geological Survey, or the US Geological Survey. So there were some rock chip samples that were taken, and there hasn't been any follow-up work since then. So we're pretty excited to get in there and start doing some geochemical, geophysics, and then move towards a drill campaign during the course of 2025. So I'm just going to move on and talk a little bit about our Australian asset portfolio. So as I mentioned, we have the Livingston project. On the Livingston project, you can see by the figure on the right side of the presentation, there are just a lot of targets. We have a bit of a program to get through some of these targets after we finish the strategic review, which is going on at the moment by an independent geologist who knows this area very well. We're hoping that we can probably release the information from that strategic review in early December, and it will give us a better understanding of how we can quite quickly add some value to this project. With our 70,000 ounces of gold at the moment, that was done at a much lower gold price. So we do have the ability quite quickly to move some of those ounces up using a current gold price. But more importantly, I think we'd like to add some real ounces through some further drilling or further work around where the current resources are, and then targeting some of these more advanced targets in a potential drilling campaign during the course of next year. At this stage, we've had quite a bit of corporate interest in this project. So, we may look to divest the project if we get really busy in Saudi. We're a pretty small company and we don't want to get too large. So we want to put our resources where they're best going to be realised and obviously provide value to shareholders. But we don't want to divest the project too quickly. We want to make sure that we have enough value being realised by the parties that are looking at the project prior to divesting it. So here's a bit of a sample of some of the work that we've done on some of the resource models. And as I said, some of the higher gold prices would support some of these models being redone and adding some additional tonnes. But also there's quite a bit of follow-up drilling that can be done. A lot of these, and as is on this slide, they're open at depth and along strike. So that's another way that we can quickly add value, or that we can demonstrate to a third party who might be interested in acquiring the project how they can quite quickly add value to the project. The Millennium Project, we only have a couple of $100,000 to spend until we move our interest from 51 to 80% of the project. So we will definitely be doing that over the course of 2025. And we would definitely do that before we look at divesting this project. That will most likely be the outcome of this project. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, it's within an area where there are a lot of projects. It's very close to the EVA project and other projects that are all ramping up or being, getting quite a lot of exploration at the moment in the area. So we have had some interest in acquisition of this project. There is in the middle, or sort of down to the bottom, you can see there's a tiny missing square where that sort of purplish line goes to, which is what we call the 200 by 200 metre gap zone, which is owned by Harmony actually. So it sits in the middle of our mining leases. We are working with Harmony and the Queensland government to sort of fix this small problem, because this is actually taking quite significant tonnes out of the resource that's available to us, as we can't put a pit shell around that because we don't own the 200 by 200 metres. So that's, some of the value add type of work that we're doing, which basically won't cost us anything, but it was taking a bit of time and more time than we'd like, because, we're quite impatient people. But we do have a data room and we have had quite a bit of interest in this project. Just before I leave, I did touch on Jordan and what our work program there is. And as I said, we have been frustrated over the course of this year that we haven't been able to drill. And we were having a little internal discussion the other day about the fact that Elon Musk can catch a rocket ship with some chopsticks, and we can't seem to be able to get a suitable drill rig into Jordan over the course of a 12-month period. Obviously, there have been some geopolitical issues in the region, which has kept the Jordanians quite busy. But it's also the issue of being able to get a drill rig in the country along with qualified drillers. We are definitely working through those issues with the government, and they've been very supportive. We have now our drilling permissions in place for all three of the projects. So we're hoping that we will be a little bit more productive in Jordan over 2025. And it will definitely work in well with our Saudi work program as well, given that our team will be in the region during that period. So that brings to the end my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ines. We have had a couple of questions come through. As Ines mentioned, please send them through via the Q&A pane on the Zoom platform, or email them to me at alex@investorsstream.com.au. Ines, to start, how quick do you think you can mobilise to kickstart your exploration program in Saudi Arabia?
Well, we're exploring there now. So over the course of the last few months, we've had one of our field geologists and a couple of Saudis with him in the country doing some rock chip sampling. And as part of that sort of targeted work, we've actually applied for an additional 4 exploration licenses. So look, we are ready to get moving in the country. We have our joint venture company established. So I think that William's on 2 weeks leave at the moment. He's heading back on the 25th. And then we will look to put in a couple more resources to assist him straight after Christmas. So most of our programs will be kicking off about January. This is the perfect time in the hot desert to be exploring. So we want to get quite a lot of field work done, and we'll be generating results before Easter next year.
Thanks, Ines. Now, in your view, you touched on it in your presentation, but could you just expand on what makes Saudi a favourable jurisdiction for new entrant explorers such as yourself?
Well, I wouldn't say such as ourselves. I'd say as ourselves, because we are very experienced in Saudi. We've spent time there. We have great local relationships. We also know people at places like Marden very well. And then there is the very favourable mining legislation, which was just updated in 2021, and also the reimbursement program. So it's about $1.5 million per 100 square kilometres that you'll be reimbursed for exploration expenditure. Our project is 400 square kilometres, so I'm hoping we'll get 4 times 1.5, and we are looking for some clarification on that. So there is just the government support behind it, but also the fact that it's a sophisticated mining industry in Saudi, and there are other people there doing it. So there are all of the exploration services available, and also geological consulting companies like SRK and those types of people are all in Saudi Arabia as well.
So are there any other projects or opportunities that you're looking at in Saudi Arabia?
Well, there are many. As I mentioned, on top of the Wadi Al Juna project, which we were awarded as part of the round 6 licensing, we have applied for 4 exploration projects as well. Some of those are not completely greenfield. They've had quite a bit of work done on them. And we are also in discussions with some of the local companies who also have projects which are slightly more advanced about the potential to joint venture on those projects. So there are a lot of opportunities, and yeah, we're really excited about realising those opportunities in 2025.
Now, the entitlement offer's underway, I believe, to raise 1.56 million. But do you think that's going to be, how far do you think that could stretch you over the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Well, we're a junior exploration company, so we never have enough money. I guess our focus is divesting either one or both of our Australian assets and doing that over the course of next year. So our hope is that once we divest those assets, which are worth, a significant amount of real money, that we will be able to then divert those funds into paying for our exploration expenditure in the MENA region.
Thanks, Ines. And could you just recap your near-term catalysts across your portfolio? You were quite in-depth across the next sort of 12 to 18 months, but could you just recap a bit more near-term over the next 6 months in terms of what you're looking to achieve?
Sure. I mean, over the next sort of month, we're expecting to get our graphite results back on the Millennium Copper Cobalt and hopefully Millennium Copper Cobalt graphite project. We will be putting out the results of our review on the Livingston project. As I mentioned, we have been in Saudi and we have been doing some on-the-ground work. So I think we have a couple of hundred rock chip samples in at the local ALS lab in Jeddah, in for assay. and then we will have groundwork. So I'm expecting, between now and April next year that we will have fairly consistent news flow, both from our Australian and from our Middle East projects.
Thanks, Ines. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you all for joining me. And I'd also like to thank Ines for presenting and taking the time to answer some questions. As I mentioned before, a recording of the webinar will be on Metal Bank's website and social media platforms later today. Ines, before I let you go, do you have any final comments to leave with us today?
Yeah, I do actually. I want to thank all of our shareholders for having some patience during the past 12 months, and I'm also a large shareholder. So I'm hoping that, well, I'm not hoping, I'm absolutely confident that over the course of the next 12 months, we will have some really robust results, and as a result, we will see some good share price re-rating and an exciting growth opportunity for the company.
Thanks, Ines. Well, that wraps it up for us here. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.